If you crack first, Dave, it won't make you any less of a man.
I'm nowhere near cracking.
Neither am I, my friend.
Dave. And Matthew, what is it now? For God's sake, no one's smoking, okay?
But nothing!
You know what we need around here is an anti-whining ordinance.
So just sip your sniveling little lip and haul your skinny ass out of here!
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and today we've got some more DC Comics news.
Yeah.
I just talked yesterday on the channel, and we were going through the future state lineup, and I said, hey, if there's a character that I think should be earmarked and will likely have a future outside of this event, it is Yara Flor. She would be first, and that's the one they should do first. And it turns out I was right. They announced, just hours later that there's going to be a Yara Flor comic series and a TV series going on to the CW Arrowverse. And also we have some information on the new DC continuity where, I guess everything happened now is the way they're going to do it. We'll look into that, and that's in Death Metal #5 that came out today, which surprisingly was a pretty good comic book. It's definitely the best comic of the series so far as the main title goes. And here with me to talk about that is El Percherino himself, the Poobah of comics. How you doing, Perch?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I'm glad you could make it today. I do want to say this before we get into all these details. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoy this content. Give us a thumbs down if you don't. Either way, we definitely want to know your comments or your thoughts on Yara Flor comic series and a TV series, as well as the new DC Omniverse intro in Death Metal #5. Now, getting into this character has essentially been created by Joelle Jones, who was working on Catwoman. She's going to be writing and illustrating the new Wonder Woman series. Yara Flor is a Brazilian ancestry. She is a Wonder Woman. She's going to be the new generation. And we see here in the middle, she's actually going to be Wonder Girl in the comic book series that's rolling out of this. And she's also going to be Wonder Girl in the TV show. She's described as a Brazilian dreamer. Do you think that means that she's a girl with a dream, or do you think that she's in America as like a dreamer?
I think it's a girl with a dream. I think they're playing with the words. I mean, for sure. I think it all fits. Yeah.
So I know you're not surprised. This was clearly, as far as the character design, was the character that was going to garner the most excitement and enthusiasm. Beautiful looking design on the part of Joelle Jones. Are you surprised it ended up happening this fast?
No, I mean, I think the signs were all there, but DC was telling us they were going to create a lot more kind of connections and synergy between shows and comics and character creation, and everything else. I think the surprise is they actually are doing what they said they were going to do. And I guess that's a surprise for me. I mean, it is fast. I think and as I'm staring at the screen here, I'm wondering where the tat or whatever it is on her leg goes when she grows up. But anyway, that's just as an aside. I'm now distracted. It was clearly it's an interesting gamble, because this was a breakout character in the sense that the solicitations and the marketing for this character, meaning mainly just the pictures, got a lot of people excited when they first saw it. But we haven't seen a comic. We don't know the personality. We don't know anything. We've seen less than 10 pictures total of this character. And so it is bold for DC to go from, a couple preview images in the catalog to a ongoing series in March, and kind of a very established character and a TV show and all the rest. I mean, this is the product, I want to say by committee to some extent. I mean, this clearly it's not Joelle Jones that did this all on her own. It's definitely a case where a bunch of people from Warner Media got together and say, we want a new character. We want these attributes. We want this kind of personality. Let's do it. And then this is how it kind of evolved. I think we're going to see a lot more of this, clearly, as the groups work together. This is the first sign of what will be a lot of this to come.
So, yeah, we've been talking about this on the channel here. And, just thinking about Future State, it feels like there's not a lot of enthusiasm for the event. But if Warner Media, with this DC Comics 2-month event, whether it has good sales or not, end up getting a well-received TV show and a character that they can use in other mediums, it's like a huge success, right?
Oh, sure. It will. If this character takes off in media and on the show, and if it becomes something that they can market, merchandise, and brand, then the whole thing will have been worth it for them financially. It will all pencil out. And I'm that's how DC's going to look at this. That's how Warner Media is going to be looking at this. If they can have a character like this or like Punchline, and they can kind of spit out one of these every 6 months or so, and it translates to other things, then this train's going to keep rolling forever. This is exactly what they want to have happen. Now, the downside to this is, what if it tanks? What if this character comes out in the comics and she is super annoying and it's just not interesting and the personality is all wrong, nobody likes it, and then this show kind of wanders out a year later and it's unwatchable? There's just as good a chance that will happen. I think, and that's where, if I'm doing this, I appreciate and I admire the boldness of just committing and going for it. Commit to the bit and go. However, it is risky, and they are moving it very, very rapidly. I would have probably waited to at least let the character sink in a little bit. I think they run a little bit of the risk of what Marvel has seen with Miss Marvel to some extent, where they push and push and push the character, and you almost get a fan or viewer backlash against, because they're like, we didn't come to like this character. You told us we had to like it. And that's always the danger when you move really quickly.
I do find the Joelle Jones being the writer artist, past future state for the future Wonder Girl. Obviously, that was Donna Troy before. Great artist. Obviously, we're looking at the image there on the left. That's the character design. The one on the middle is going to be Wonder Girl herself. I read Catwoman. Now, I do feel like that series was hamstrung because it was kind of spinning out of Batman 50, the not wedding that happened. But, I read a few issues, and she's not a terrible writer, but she's not the best writer DC Comics has. She is a great artist.
Yeah, not a lot happened in Catwoman, and I'd like to kind of see what would happen without the handcuffs. I mean, everything that largely spun out of what Tom King was doing on Batman at that time suffered as a result of it. I think Jones has the ability to tell a good story. Definitely a great artist. I think that the abilities are there. I now here we're finally going to see something with maybe a little bit less baggage going into it. That said, I also suspect this character and this whole story and everything is going to be very managed by committee. There's going to be
a lot of more oversight.
Oh yeah, and that could be good or bad. But it's going to be a very packaged product, and it's going to feel that way.
Yeah, it's definitely a bold move. A production on the CW, led by Greg Berlanti is not exactly the cheapest thing in the world, and it shows a lot of confidence in the character. They obviously, think they're on the right track. So,
yeah, it's bold. I am glad it's bold. I'm glad they're making bold moves. I think now is the time to try big things. Go big or go home. They should do it. Won't all work, but I'd rather them do this than kind of trudging along and kind of just spinning their wheels. It's try some new stuff and all the rest. Now, definitely, I have heard that there's from on my channel anyway. I'm sure you have or will hear the same. A lot of irritation at the kind of erasure of Donna Troy and Wonder Girl as a concept and why this replacement and everything else. I agree with that. I wish they could reconcile this stuff, and they didn't have to do it this way. I hope that there's a plan for how you keep Donna Troy and other characters that already have existed significant in the line. I feel that that's a shame that you have to erase one character to add room for another. But
now, I remember we talked about this when we were talking about Future State. We finally got some information. I was like, I think we're going to see some of these characters in the not too distant future, but I kind of thought it would initially be John Ridley's next Batman, which will be Luke Fox or Tim Fox. We're not sure which one yet, because at DC Fandom, Jim Lee had said John Ridley is writing a Batman. I assumed that meant he was going to be writing more than just the Future State series. Do you think we'll see that character, or is there another character within Future State we'll get the Yara Flor treatment where it immediately goes into production for a new comic series?
No, I think the next they will do stuff with John Ridley's Batman. I think that is the one where they're going to have that character. Although I don't think it will be Batman. I think Warner Media, again, they're very committed to the Robert Pattinson Batman movie, and so that's Bruce Wayne, and they're not going to change that. But they are going to try and make room for another character, whether it's Batwing or some iteration of that. The Ridley Batman that we'll see in Future State will be a character I would be completely unsurprised to see an ongoing comic again created for that character. and whatever's being produced there. It won't be as Batman, but it'll be something along those lines. And then I suspect that they're going to do something with Jon Kent as well. I think that that's another one that they're going to try and put some real time and energy and effort into. You can wrap your head around this. There was a comment made from Warner Media that they would like to have somewhere in the realm of 12 to 20 shows running on their streaming platform or on the CW by the end of 2021. 2022. So in roughly 2 years, they wanted somewhere around that range. And that's a lot of characters to produce. That's a huge goal, but it does give you an indication of where they think they're going to have to build and grow. And so I think we're going to see lots of these characters come out, but Batman will be next.
So I got to ask about this character right here. We know that the next Flash is going to be Jess Chambers. Essentially, it's Quicksilver, but non-binary and, with the race swap. But do you think this is the new Reverse Flash, this Flash with the blades? It's something. I've been curious about this image and where they're going, because there's I don't know when this was drawn exactly in relation to everything else that they're doing. You'll notice that the older Superman, or the original Superman, is wearing a costume that is different from what we're seeing now in Future State. He's got more of the gladiator view, shirtless. So there's a bunch of changes to this image, and I can't tell exactly if that was maybe an early version of the Flash we're getting, the Earth 11 Flash, or is that something else, or is that I don't know. It feels like this image may have shifted a little bit. Might be a little out of date.
That's my feeling. I may be wrong, but it's you see a lot of changes in this when you compare it to the solicitations in January and February, and I don't know. Yeah.
So we are going to get into some spoilers on Dark Knight's Death Metal #5, as we're not going to review the comic or go into great detail, but I am going to talk about some of it that addresses the DC Omniverse before we wrap this up. Mm-hmm. At one point, they find Lex Luthor, and they're talking to him, and they're talking about crisis energy, anti-crisis energy, and we say this rope, and that is like the fabric of continuity at DC, and there's all these knots in it. This is what the first part is, what Wonder Woman says. I don't understand this machine. It will help us redirect crisis energy so we can fight him, talking about the Batman who laughs. And Lex Luthor says, no, we are batteries for crisis energy, and it's opposite. Crisis energy is born in our fears, our anger, our desire to be big. It invites us to make changes to history, to make the present more important. But anti-crisis energy is connective. It unites people through memory and history, reminding us we are all small but part of one epic story. Build my machine and use it to unknot the timeline and restore everyone's memories. In doing so, you will connect us all to the truth and create a powerful stream of anti-crisis energy you might be able to use to fight him. So there you go. That is how they're going to undo the continuity and make everything exist. Yeah. My one concern is if everything's important, is anything important?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this is a thing that as long as they can kind of keep everybody spinning with really strong editorial to make it still matter, I guess. But yeah, I mean, if nothing matters anymore, you can easily just kind of create or erase. And it's not the creation that's a problem. It's the erasure that's a problem. And I know Scott Snyder has said over and over, this isn't about subtraction. It's about everything mattering. That sounds good. But when somebody comes in and tells a story that retcons or alters something in the past, a retcon does erase things. It does remove part of that past in favor of something new in the future. And comic writers do this all the time for shock value or because they want to get their particular slant on a character.
Year one story.
Yeah, exactly. They do it all the time. So it's not like you're just creating new. You're taking something away to create something new. That's part of what a retcon is. And so I do worry that in this new world where it's much easier to do that, where you can just throw things in and kind of change it up and whatever else, it also becomes very, it becomes almost a what wins is what it's what wins is wins by committee kind of approach. So if all these different writers just try different things and something catches for the moment, then suddenly everybody else must adapt to it. It creates a bit of a mess. I mean, just hearing me talk this out loud, just listening to my own voice, it sounds like a mess. So, or maybe I'm explaining it better.
What I'm more worried about isn't so much the continuity of the timeline. I'm more worried about the character continuity. that anyone can just go in there and make wholesale changes to a character's motivations, the way they react to things, and it's like, well, it doesn't doesn't change the character because that all still exists, and it's like it feels like it's a cop out for bad writing.
Yeah, it does. I mean, if they keep it really tightly controlled and they actually have a plan and they use all this stuff to their advantage, great. But if it becomes an out for any time something doesn't quite work out the way you hope, or the ability for you to very quickly and fluidly just change something about a character and it doesn't matter because you can just throw it in, it could be subtractive really, really quickly. It sounds great. All this stuff now matters. Everything matters. And all these stories count and all the rest. But you have to have some really clever architecture, some really clever writing to actually pull that off and to put all that together. And
some good oversight by your editorial team.
Yes, exactly. And that editorial team has been largely decimated at DC. So good luck with that one. It will definitely free up things for creators. I get why a lot of writers think this is a great idea and it will work wonderfully for them. It gives them less, their argument, if they want to pitch a story that doesn't quite fit, is it all matters. Who cares? And that can be freeing, but not all writers should be freed. Like some writers should have a lot of guidelines on them. They're not ready for that.
And I think it could be quite frustrating for readers. Obviously, that's who we think about first and foremost here on the channel. So
yeah,
those are my thoughts on the Omniverse. I will say Dark Knight's Death Metal #5 is the best issue so far, and it gives a clear end game to where they're actually going. You kind of see the stakes and where they're heading. So that'll kind of wrap it up for today's DC Comics news. Big things happening with Yara Flor. She's got her own comic series, Wonder Girl, and they're producing her own TV series for the CW Arrowverse, spinning out of that with Greg Berlanti and his team. And we're finally seeing what the new DC Omniverse, whatever you want to call it, is going to be, and kind of what it means in Death Metal #5. I definitely want to hear from the viewers. What do you guys think? Is this a good thing? Are you excited that they're untying the knots and it's basically, will it be a free-for-all for the creators just to do whatever they want with the characters with no repercussions?
Yeah.
So, Perch, is there anything else you need to say before we wrap this up?
No, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Like we said at the beginning, an ongoing series 3 months into her life is pretty crazy. But yeah, so brand new floppy March.
Hey, they don't have to sell a comic book, but if this isn't becoming a hit TV show and they get to use this character in other types of medium, they can put it on backpacks. Future states of success.
Absolutely.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.